let's be honest. We all play that role. And we're sitting here bullshit. I don't want to be full of shit here. I've played the role of the victim before. I've had those moments where I'm like, well, it's someone else's fault that we didn't do this or didn't get this, didn't win this football game. I've played that same role before, and I think that's just in us. You said it earlier. We're wired that way. Yeah. Now it's just about how long are you going to sit there and be the victim.
And what?
Oh. Well, this is awkward.
I thought I was the guy that brings us in. I thought that was my job.
You've been replaced by somebody far less superior. Darren, how's your shoulder feeling? You just got the second COVID shot.
The shoulder feels great, man. I do feel a little weird, though.
Or did they put it in your butt?
You see.
Pause.
Really? Are we anyway, it's a damn shot, man.
Where'd they put
it? Shoulder. It's in the shot.
You can get a shot in the butt.
Yeah, you can.
Hey,
that's Toradol.
No, I was going to say
the butt cheek.
The D ball that you and the Cowboys used to take back in the 90s. That's
nothing about that life.
Was it D ball or 8 ball that you used to take back in the 90s?
8 ball, no balls. Hey, we never took balls.
Oh,
we gave the ball.
Wow. Okay.
This show took a really inappropriate start.
See, Tyler. This is why you usually bring us in. No, but seriously, how you feel? Second shot?
I feel a little weird, man.
Yeah, people say it's a little.
I just got it, 2 hours ago? And the first shot I got, it was a Pfizer shot. The first shot I was fine, no problem. This one, I just feel a little different. I mean, I don't feel sick, but it's like immediate.
Yeah.
Really? That felt a little different, yeah.
Do you think it's like placebo, or do you think because you're thinking about it?
No, I didn't.
For sure.
Honestly, the first time I got the shot, didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So this time, same thing. I just walked in, got the shot, and it was so fast. I walked in. My appointment was at 9:00. I walk in the door, bam, get the shot. And I sit down for 15 minutes, and you have to wait, 15 minutes so you don't
make sure you don't
die.
Make
sure you
don't die.
And then you walk out, and nothing. I didn't even feel anything. No big deal. And I got in the car, and I was like, man, that's different.
Huh.
And it's not like it's something extreme. It just feels a little bit lighter.
See, I've talked to multiple people that have had COVID that then got the vaccination after the fact, and the reaction to the second shot was very different than people that have not gotten COVID.
Right.
And I think it all obviously depends on it. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm not claiming to be, but it's just interesting. I know you had it a year ago.
Yeah, in June.
Can you believe? Almost, I guess almost a year. Gosh, it's been that long.
Time, yeah. It
so
feels like.
I wonder if you even have the antibodies still in your system. There would be a reaction.
I have no idea, man. I mean, I don't look. I'm that guy that I felt like I needed to get the vaccine because there's going to be a lot of things I want to do this summer. I want to travel. I want to get back on the road. I don't know what the airlines are. They're going to require you to fly into Europe.
Are they going to require?
They give you a barcode.
Give you a card.
They tattoo a barcode right on your arm.
Yeah, on your forehead.
A little chip in your
forehead.
So where's your barcode?
It's in my pocket. It's my wallet, dog. That's what they give you. They give you a little card.
Huh.
I took a picture of it on my phone, and if I need to use it, it's there.
Did you have any reservations at all?
None.
Like second thoughts?
No, my wife does.
They just formulated this thing and shooting up millions of people?
No. Like, hey, man, get it and go. Don't worry about all that.
I feel like this could be the beginning of like some science fiction movie where they like injected you with like a tracking chip.
I am legend.
Dude. and they're now going to like have control over all the population.
Dude, last year, right when this all went down, the lockdowns and everything, there was a movie. It was the Divergent series. Y'all remember that series?
Yeah. Huh?
And the last one in that series was about Elizabeth, do you remember this? Okay. Well, the last one in the series was about a worldwide disease that was people, when they got it, they turned into like blood-sucking, not zombies, but like I guess they wanted to eat other cannibalists, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was just this whole movie, and it was right. They played it right after the pandemic. I don't know if they meant to do that or not. Probably did.
Just been sitting on that one for a while.
Yeah.
Just
Could you imagine if I just turned all of a sudden?
Yeah, you just start turning, you start biting my neck.
I'm not.
Tyler might appreciate it, but I don't think I'd like it.
I like little nibbles here and there,
Anyway. To the topic that we were really going to discuss, we're glad that you're doing well. Hopefully,
yes.
You know, though, that the elderly could get their shots a long time ago, right?
Nothing to do with elderly. Dude, I walked in there.
Yes, it
like,
did.
this
You
is
were
Superman.
one of the first
They looked at
eligible
me
people.
like, no, they kicked me out the first time. First time they saw me, they were like, oh, hell no. You're
Sir,
way
can we
too
take
young.
blood from you to inject into others? Is that what they said? But when I say, so the real topic at hand, Darren, I've got a question for you. And Tyler, you can answer as well.
Oh, thanks.
When you hear the term victim mentality, Darren, what do you think?
I think it's rampant. I think it makes me cringe at times just to hear that, because there's so much more around just the victim mentality. But when you hear that word, it makes me cringe in the sense of, that people that we're not willing to overcome. Like you're okay just wallowing around in this feeling of hopelessness. So that's the word that I would say. Hopelessness is victim mentality. And it's, I know it's our topic today, and I don't want to take up that time because I can go on a rampage on this. But, Tyler, I'm going to ask you the same thing. What is it that you think of when you hear the word victim mentality?
So I agree with you. I think it's rampant. I think it naturally, as people, we're wired to think that way. Because think about it as a parent. Your 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old. It's never their fault, right? It's somebody else's fault. It's not, it's not, why am I getting in trouble, or I didn't do this. There's always, we're wired that way. Mm-hmm. It makes me cringe, like you said, too, because one is we have parents that are not raising their children to take ownership of their own actions, because we have so many parents that are absent and let babysitters, let nannies, let school, let daycare raise their kids and pour into their kids. And that's a trait I feel like parents, grandparents, like family members specifically are designed to do. Those are lessons that they teach. Mm-hmm. A teacher can't do that. Coaches, they can start to teach that, but parents have to set the foundation of taking ownership. And so it's become rampant because, for the last 20 plus years, now we have these kids that don't have to take ownership because everything has been done for them. Everything has been easy. So when something goes wrong, then it's not their fault. Right. It's somebody else's fault. I can't do anything right. I don't have control over anything because they've never had control in their life. They've never had responsibilities at a young age. They never had to take the trash cans out. They never had to do the dishes. They never had to mow the lawn. They never had to do all of those things where they had ownership in the work that they did and realized, okay, the effort that I put into it, I actually can control that. I can control what I do. The victim mentality says I'm not in control. The victim mentality means, that everybody else dictates my future.
Right.
And that to me, that makes me cringe because that's a hard way to live. Can you just, and like you said, the hopelessness, like, can you just imagine like my success is 100% dictated on everyone else?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that is hopeless.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're a puppet.
Yes.
And you can't do anything for yourself, and you can't think for yourself, and you can't act for yourself, and you can't get angry. You can't do this and this. It's that's the part of it that again, as you said, what do I think about? Hopelessness. And I've lived that growing up. I lived the fact of, hey, I was just born into this. This is where we live. This is what we do. I mean, everyone around me is this way. Everyone around me doesn't have a parent, doesn't have a father in their life. Man, I can do about it.
Let's take it to the guys let's take it to the football field first.
All right.
We've all three of us have played with guys that if they busted a route, busted a coverage, fit a gap wrong, whatever, it was somebody else's fault always. Right. There are those guys. Mm-hmm. And that mentality, that victim mentality, how often did that translate to good players?
No, at all, because most of those good players
take accountability,
extreme
ownership of it, right? And I mean, you think about, okay, why are those guys doing that? It's because they've always been told they were the best. They always, they didn't have to work very hard. They didn't put in the time. They were just naturally good. Mm-hmm. I mean, think of so many guys that it was always, oh, this coach hates me, or I didn't get the opportunity. This dude, he did this. Or the strength coach, he screwed me up and hurt me in the weight room. Or the training staff. I mean, it's those guys. It's always somebody else's fault, right? And that, I mean, there's guys like that. You think in the office, in the business world, there's people all over.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest. We all play that role. And we're sitting here bullshit. I don't want to be full of shit here. I've played the role of the victim before. I've had those moments where I'm like, well, it's someone else's fault that we didn't do this or didn't get this, didn't win this football game. I've played that same role before, and I think that's just in us. You said it earlier. We're wired that way. Yeah. Now it's just about how long are you going to sit there and be the victim?
Mm-hmm. And Ben, you've said it quite a bit. Is that there's times that you're like, I just don't deserve to be successful. I don't deserve to reach all this success. And I'm not saying that that's the victim mentality, but like it plays into it, right? It plays into a paralysis of going and getting what you want to accomplish, as opposed to, I don't deserve it. I shouldn't get there. Now, you are a great example of someone that says, okay, I may feel like I don't deserve it, but dang it, I'm going to go work my tail off to get it anyways.
Right.
And I'm going to prove everyone else wrong that I think, whether it's, falsely created in your mind or internally created, or by someone else, is, okay, I'm going to prove all of them wrong. Myself, you, everybody, because I'm going to go outwork it. But we do all have that victim. There's so many times it's like, I can't do anything right. How many times do I say this to my wife all the time? Like, I can't do anything right. I can't do, I don't know what to do anymore. I just can't do anything right. I'm always this. Like, what a little bee.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is, because at first you started talking about, these people have never taken out the trash for themselves. They've never done anything. And my follow-up question to you was going to be, okay, you did all those things, but have you ever suffered from the victim mentality?
100%.
So there's no one type of person that has the victim mentality.
No.
We all
do.
Struggle covers us all.
But what we're doing though is by the way we're raising kids, generally, I'm not saying everyone, what we're doing is we're reinforcing that fact so that habit's harder to break.
Yeah.
That voice in your head that tells you you're the victim is louder than someone that says, because for me, I have that, but I also am like, but I've also known what it's like when you work really hard and you take ownership, the success that comes with it. I think the default is victim, but then once you're there and you have those thoughts, which I think are normal, okay, how are you going to react to it? Are you going to be paralyzed by it and just stay in that victim title? Or are you going to say, screw it, we're going to...
Yeah, the difference isn't that some people feel it, some people don't. The difference is how they respond to it.
Yeah.
When something happens to you,
and
what I wrote down is the victim mentality thinks life happens to me as opposed to for me.
Yeah.
And so two people can be faced with the same situation, come from, wherever you come from, and one can say, hey, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to better myself. And another one's going to say, no, there's nothing I can do. It's just the cycle I'm in.
Right.
Now, those are extreme examples, but there's a lot more subtle examples of victim mentality. A deal doesn't go your way in business, and you sit there and think, oh, man, I worked so hard for it.
Right.
I deserve that.
Yeah.
I deserve is one of my that's one of my most cringe words.
I was going to say that.
I cringe every time I hear I deserve. And I haven't always been like that. I used to say that. In fact, my dad broke me out of saying that. You don't deserve anything.
Right.
You're given everything.
Right.
It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best lessons. I mean, he's taught me a ton, but that's one of the best lessons is we're not deserving of anything, man.
Yeah.
But that's the victim mentality. The headlines are, pay for my education or, the color of my skin. So the white man's always going to hold me down. That's what gets to the headlines. Those are the big victim mentality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, I struggle with it daily in a lot more subtle ways. And I've talked about it before. I look around at my friends. I see they're doing well. Why can't I have that? Mm-hmm. What do they have that I don't? That's a victim mentality.
Yeah, but look, we can talk about the victim mentality all we want, but there are certain things that are just natural, that's innate in us. It just happens. It's just who we are as human beings, right? Your jealousy is a part of that, right? being the victim is a part of that, or playing that role. Again, it's the timeline. It's like, how long are you going to sit in this?
Yep.
One of the things that, like in football, in the NFL, we call it the 24-hour rule. Mm-hmm. You get your ass kicked on Sunday, you got 24 hours to get over it. So you're going to lose that game. Next morning, you're going to watch all the film. You're going to be critical of everything you did, Tyler. Didn't do this. You didn't, get that middle linebacker out of the hole. You took the wrong step. Every little thing. And it sucks, man. Mm-hmm. It sucks going through that whole situation. Then you go out after you watch all the film. You go outside, and then you jog, and you try to get loose again. And then you huddle up, and you break the huddle, and what they say, all right, move on, 24-hour rule.
Yeah.
Yep. It's gone.
And that's a great parameter, because what I want people to hear is that it's okay if your first initial thought is to think like a victim.
Yes.
That's totally natural. Yeah. But what do you choose to do with it beyond that? That's the issue at hand that we're talking about.
Right.
And the NFL has a very tangible, like you just mentioned, or any college, whoever, 24-hour rule. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to give yourself a certain amount of time, and then you're going to move on.
Yeah.
So has the quote-unquote victim mentality, maybe it's just because I'm more aware of it now, has this always been a thing when you were growing up?
Absolutely.
Was that a term that was commonly used?
No, the term wasn't used. The victim mentality term wasn't used. I always looked at it as, just growing up where I grew up, it was, I was poor. I was born into this. I didn't have a father my mother and father weren't together. I saw that just throughout the neighborhood. Most of the parents were just moms raising their kids. It's just, hey, man, I wish we didn't have, professional athletes or doctors coming back into the neighborhood.
And guess what? Every single one of those things you didn't choose.
No.
They happened to you.
Yes.
So you're totally justified, at least initially, to think, why me?
Yeah, well, no one's giving us anything. I have to go to work. I'm 12 years old, and I have to go with my uncles to go pick up carpet somewhere, and it's hot as hell. I got to walk from school. I don't have a car.
My teachers suck.
My teachers don't like me.
Yeah.
The color of my skin or whatever, man. There were so many things that I could have played into. And there were times where, I'll be honest, man, I was like, what the fuck? Like, these guys are,
totally
they getting breaks. I'm watching it on TV. People get these breaks and blah, blah. And that's just a part of it. But then after a while, you sit there and you go, and it was my mother who was always the one telling us, like, ain't nobody going to give you shit. And I always tell you guys the same thing. I say it all the time. Ain't nobody going to love you like you. And if you want to sit there and play the role of the victim and think that someone's going to come on and put on a cape and save the day, that shit ain't happening. Mm-mm. It's in you. You press restart or reset, and then you have to go. Man, you can't rely on other people to help you get through the process. So I don't care what it is. I don't care what the obstacle is. It doesn't start with them giving you. Mm-hmm. It starts with you hitting the button.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? And you need people.
Yeah.
But you can't solely rely on people. If that makes sense.
You can't solely rely on people. And let's just think about all the obstacles that some of the great people of our generation. I've always been a fan of Muhammad Ali. Well, Muhammad Ali was undefeated for a long time, ended up losing to Joe Frazier his first fight. His first loss was against Joe Frazier. Did he just sit on his ass and say, I ain't the greatest? He came back out like months later, said, I'm the greatest ever. We're going to have a rematch, and I'm going to beat his ass, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, you had those obstacles. Mark Cuban was around here for years in this Dallas market pushing broadcast.com, trying to raise money and from investors, and was told no probably 1,000 times. Did he sit there on his damn hands and sulk? Mm-hmm. Probably did the first time or the first few times, but he kept going. Mm-hmm. You have to continue to push forward.
Let's all three, Tyler, start with you. What is a tangible example where you've had the victim mentality? Either recently, in the past, whatever. Pick an example that people can relate to.
Yeah, so you just said something born into this. I think that's one that we all have used. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, no, like you look at somebody that their parents had a company and then they passed it down to them, or their parents were genetically gifted and they just were born into that, like it was just different. And I mean, there's many times that I just sit and instead of thinking in my mind, okay, I want to go create something. I want to create a product, a company, a service, whatever it is. I want to go create something and build something. It's like, I look at other people like, oh, man, his dad just passed down his development company, man, it must be nice. Or construction company, oh, he just bought a construction company that his grandpa started. Oh, it must be nice. Right. Like so many times I get paralyzed. And it's like, well, I was born into this. I was just born to be a worker. My dad was a worker. My grandpas were workers. Like that's just what I'm born into. Yeah. That's who I am. You got to stop and you got to catch yourself. I was also born into a family that no one has ever graduated college.
Yeah,
I did that.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
And so I was also born into, not athletes. I mean, no offense to my family. I love my family, but none of them were athletes. I played at the highest level in football. So it's like you're born into something, you're born into a family, but that's it. That's your family.
Right.
Your family, your genetics, your heritage, that does not dictate your future. That does not dictate your limitations. And I get so often, even after reaching those, it's like, man, must be nice. I want to build something for my kids, and then it's like you snap out of it and it's like, okay, what beast am I going to feed, right? Am I going to feed the beast of a victim or am I going to feed the beast of going and getting it, right? And being self-reliant. And I say self-reliant because, I'm huge on team, put people around you. I'm not saying you got to do it by yourself, like F the world. It's like, okay, if I want to create something, I want to do something, then I've got to set the stage and I got to go do it, and then put the people around.
Right.
But
it's
no, it's all right. No, it's the same.
You just said something earlier that was like so good. I want to,
no, and that's it. So tell me how good I am. What did I say?
Well, what you said earlier, it hit me a little different. And if you hadn't listened to Tyler's story, I believe it was episode 4 or 5. I forget what it's called. The Green Couch was the episode title. One of the very first episodes we did. But something you just said, I didn't come from a family of athletes. And so you could have and you ended up playing in the NFL for 7 years. You blew the statistic of the average. And yet you come from a family that nobody ever graduated college and nobody was an athlete.
What do you mean by nobody was an athlete?
Nobody had collegiate experience.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
I was in the same boat.
Were you really? Okay. So
yeah.
Let's finish with him and let's get to your example. But the point is, you played longer than anybody. You could have easily said, well, nobody else in my family's ever done it, so I can't do it.
Yeah.
Because you didn't get to the league immediately. You had to go through years of working your way up.
Yeah.
Because my example is the opposite of yours, but let's get to yours first, Darren. What's your example of
victim mentality?
Victim mentality.
I would say coming out of high school, and myself and a good friend of mine named Felipe Sparks played on the Maryville High team, and we were a good football team, man, really good team. And Felipe, hands down, probably the best player in the state. Hands down, best athlete, did every damn thing. He was just a tremendous player. And I remember waking up Saturdays, because on Saturdays you can go, back then we had the newspaper. We didn't have,
looking up the stat lines,
you're in the newspaper,
looking at the box scores,
looking at the box scores, and seeing where the articles are. And Philippe or myself,
why don't you just check Twitter?
Yeah, I wish. But you start looking at your stat. Like, I've had games where I've had 6 touchdowns, 4 or 5, nothing.
Felipe's picture.
Felipe's nothing.
Yeah.
Same.
Oh, serious?
Same. Felipe, because we were the West Side kids. We weren't getting that pub. Now, you go out in the outskirts in the burbs, kid has a couple touchdowns, blah, blah, blah. They're writing these stories on them. And it was easy to have, like, for me, it was that victim mentality. It was because we're black, because we're from West Side boys.
Yeah.
We ain't getting this, and we're not getting that, and scouts aren't coming in. And that was the feel, man. That was the feel. Because I remember playing against some of the other guys going, that dude is sorry. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, really? Like, and then it was like a mean streak when you played against a guy who was getting all the pub because you wanted to bury him, right? And show everybody. But that was the victim mentality, and it burned in me. And that's the one I can always remember because I just felt like being overlooked. And I'm a little different, Tyler. I think one of the things that you said is there's two different extremes. Which one do you want to feed, right? Mm-hmm. You know, do you want to be the victim or do you want to be that one that's like, you know,
the go-getter,
go get. I'm vigilant. And there should be a middle ground, but I've become vigilant as a kid to say, all right, now this ain't team. There ain't nothing about team. Because the team likes you. I mean, they want your buddies. They want the best for you. But in the very end, if your ass ain't pulling your weight, I'm not going to be the weakest link. And that's what I'm saying. It's okay to have that extreme mentality. It is. It is. I mean, if that's what it takes for you to get off your ass and to stop wallowing around, have an extreme mentality to say, I'm going to take it to another level. Right now, Ben, you have an extreme mentality as it pertains to this podcast. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people out there that are probably going to be listening. This happened, or there are kids out there that, this has happened, and I was playing baseball and COVID. But, dude, look, don't rely on someone else.
That's right. Because, and to your point, and I was watching. So Brandon Marshall, former teammate, client of ours, just dropped a new show on Fox Sports, Path to the Draft. And so he's got House of Athlete, and he trains all these athletes. Well, the first episode was this last week, and one of the guys was speaking to the upcoming draft class, and he says, "Hey, listen, when you come in, for you to make this team, you got to take food off of someone else's plate."
Yep.
So just realize, and that was the first thing, because I remember Matt Roth. I don't know if you remember Matt Roth. Played for the Cleveland Browns. Was a linebacker, big meathead dude. Called me Snowflake.
Your face.
Did you fight him? Straight up. He's like, "What's up, Snowflake?"
Did you fight him?
But literally my first day in the locker room, sitting there just scared as hell in the Cleveland Browns locker room. And he walks up, he goes, "Hey, what's up, Snowflake? Just want to let you know, you try to do some of that like extra shit, I'm gonna put you down." Right. And he's a big dude, right? And I'm like, "Is there?" Joe Thomas sitting, literally, I don't know why they put me next to Joe Thomas, but I'm sitting next to Joe Thomas. He goes, "Hey, look, man, I know this is your first time in the league, but here's what you got to understand is, are you worried about putting food on your family's table That's or right. his?
Yep.
How you practice, the only thing that you can control is yourself. And do not let him take food off of your table.
That's right.
Do not be the victim to him. Don't.
Right.
So again, it's not relying, and to your point, it's like nobody is going to do anything for you.
Right.
And once you realize that, and I love you both, but guess what? If it comes down to it, you picking your family over me, you're picking your family 100% of the time. You're picking your family 100% of the time. And I love you guys for that. I'll pick my family over you guys 110% of the time.
I'm heartbroken.
You can't pick your family more than me.
Over me.
But that's the reality. And once you accept that, and once you understand that nobody else ultimately controls you, it's totally up to you, that's when you can approach these situations and say, okay, that's fine. Okay, it's up to me. And I'm not going to let my circumstances, my environment, my friends, my family, anybody dictate it. And I am no longer under your control.
You know where the biggest problem is as well is the waste of time. The time that's wasted being the victim. Like, not only, okay, I get it. Like, something happens, you're going to wallow in it for a little while or whatnot, and it's going to be an issue. We all go through it. It may take you a day. It may take you, bombing a test, Elizabeth Prophet, and then 3 days later, it takes you to finally get over it, right? It may take you a while to do that. But it's not so much of that. Sometimes it's the fact that how your mind, the negativity takes you to a different place, and you start wasting time.
What it is, right, is that this victim mentality takes you to this fantasy land. This fantasy land of, oh man, what would it be like if it was different? Instead of what will it be like when it's different? Or how will it be when I make it different?
Wow, you're preaching.
And, I mean, it's think about it. We've all thought it.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Hey, what would it be like if I won the lottery? What would I spend my money on? What does that thought process, that visualization, right? What does that contribute to you going and earning that money.
Right.
Right. And it's the visualization of like, okay, hey, picture yourself hitting that home run, picture yourself making that catch, making that tackle, making that read. Okay, there's value in it,
Right.
but it's value when you apply it to a tangible effort that you can make, not
It's
something that is
realistic.
out of your control.
Exactly.
So this fantasy land that we spend all this time in is, man, what would it be like?
And
if
that's
it was
what I was
different?
trying to get. I'm glad you said that, Tyler. That's what I was trying to get to as a kid. Is that I was living in that fantasy land when I was in that had the victim mentality. I was living in that same world, and it was just I had to wake up and go, that's a waste of freaking time. I mean, for years, it wasn't like this happened for a couple of days. I wasted a lot of time wishing that things were different.
Yeah, wasted time. That hits home to me. My biggest and most tangible example, we've talked about it a little bit before, but I had the goal of playing in the NFL. And my last year playing football in college, it looked like that dream was going to come true. Had scouts talking every single week like that. I was on the path. And then game 8, what happens? I tear my ACL. Now, looking back on it, the reality is had I been a better prospect, that wouldn't have taken me out. At the time, though, what's my thought? Man, I would be where I want to be if it wasn't for this knee injury.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I spent, you say wasted time, I spent literally years. I'm not talking days. I'm not talking months. I spent years wishing things were different. That happened to me in 2011. I probably didn't get over it till 14 or 15. Years wasted wishing things were different. And what did that do? That translated poorly to my marriage. The first year, my marriage was rough. Ask my wife. It was a rough time because of my mental state. I was so, and I don't use this word lightly, I was so depressed that I wasn't where I thought I was going to be that I started projecting it to other people. And I was a terrible husband our first year, second year, because my mind was still stuck in what could have been.
Right.
And I didn't realize until 3 years, 4 years, thank God for my wife being so patient with me, that mentality served me nothing. And what did I do in 14, 15? I transformed my mentality to be one, I'm never, ever, ever going to fail again. If I have a goal, I'm going to accomplish it no matter what. And if I don't accomplish it, I'm not going to consider it a failure because I'm just going to pivot to something else. I consider that first goal a failure because of the way I responded to it. And now I've flipped the dial, and you guys make fun of me all the time. I flipped the dial pretty extreme the other way.
To 11. Turn it to 11.
But that's what shaped me was that 4-year, 3-year mentality of being a victim and wishing I was in a different situation. And so, Darren, you nailed it, man. It is life-taking to live this way. And I say that from all experience. I'm not saying this judgmentally, like quit being a victim. I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like to live years of your life as a victim or what I thought was a victim.
That's right.
And it didn't happen until, 3 years later that I was like, no, like this is up to me. And yes, I need help around me, of course. But what's sitting here wallowing, wishing what could have been going to do for me?
Right.
I need to make a change. And so that was a very tangible example in my life. What about today for you guys? Little daily things. Where do you see yourself playing the victim today?
In daily things, I'm simple as far as business concerned. When we lose, when I lose on anything, I'm serious. I'm so competitive on all things. It's like, of course, I'm looking like, okay, whose fault was it? That's the first thing you want to say. The first thing you say is, whose fault was it? Right? And you sit in that for a little bit and you go, okay, look, then you have to take that mentality of, okay, it's no one's fault. It's on me. It's on me. I got to figure it out. Right. But I've always had that mentality of, of sitting there and then having to step back and think about things. Because it's easy for me to have, and I think it's easy for everyone, but I think it's easy, for me to have, because I'm in so many different investment deals, to think about, okay, whose fault was this, whose fault was that, and then play the role of the victim, but and those type of things. That happens on a day-to-day basis. I would say this, I don't want to change your question, but one of the things is what I see and what's so disheartening is when you watch parents play that victim role, and then they pass it on to their kids.
Keep going.
And that's one thing that I'll start with me. I don't know how many times I've been at my house, and when my kids were coming up, I'd be saying, I've had this negative connotation or go back and forth and to be really negative. My kids are sitting there watching. It's bullshit, dude. Because I'm basically pushing down that seed. Our job as parents are to guide our kids and to be the positive light in our kids. Get off that.
We got to keep
stool.
going down this road.
What benefit?
I
think logically. What benefit?
None
Is there to pass along to your kids that they're always going to be behind?
They're always watching.
Let's continue to let's describe it. Everyone knows these people, and unfortunately, whether it's in school and your kid misbehaves, it's not your kid's fault.
Oh, yes.
And the parents go in and it's a teacher's fault because, they didn't talk to him respectfully enough, or they can't discipline him. That's my kid. It's whether it's on a sports field. Oh, coach didn't play you enough. The coach doesn't like you. The coach we're going to another team. Yeah. We're going to move to another school because you need playing time because you're going to be a top first round prospect. And it is reinforced everywhere with parents now. Yeah. Because now we're living through our kids, and we now put that victim mentality on our kids, and they don't have accountability. Whereas, and I was lucky enough that my dad took a really hands-off approach. He was there and he supported, but it was very much like, hey, bud, you sleep in the bed that you make. Mm-hmm. It's whatever you do. Look, if you get in trouble at school, I'm not going in to fight for you. My dad always told me, if you ever get arrested, don't call me.
Yeah.
Don't call me. You're going to sleep. But now I just see it more and more as I see the parents out there bailing their kids out, reinforcing the idea that no, it's not your fault. It's their fault. It's not the actions. It's not you cussing out your teacher. It's not you punching another kid. Right. It's not all these things that you did. It's not your fault. They didn't put you in a setting that was congruent to your learning behavior.
Right.
No, and it gets me boiling. Yeah. Because I know we all know a ton of teachers out there, right? Yeah. And their job is harder than ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because as parents, we need to do a better job of teaching our kids to take ownership and not be the victim, and don't reinforce it, and you don't make them the victim.
Exactly. You got something to say over there, Prophet?
Yes, because
you saw it in tennis. I
saw it in tennis.
You play a sport.
More recent reason, but in tennis, I have a really bad temper. And in tennis, I used to throw my rackets, breaking rackets, and my mom used to get on me about it. And then I realized, if I lost a match and I had a bad attitude, it's because I personally did not prepare enough to play that match.
Right.
Mm. And if I ever lost a match as I got older, it was either they were too good that day, or I just didn't play my best. And so that kind of helped tame the anger down. But a more recent reason is I remember I called my mom. And, if something happens, I call her oh, can you give me some money? Da, 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 da. And it got to the point where she was like, no, you need to figure it out on your own. And then it just made me so upset one day. I was like, fine, I will figure it out on my own. So, I worked my butt off. I got all these tennis lessons and this. And it started to take away from my studies. And so I bombed my finance test yesterday.
Yep, yes you did.
It's okay, Darren, Grandpa. And so I called my mom up in tears because I'm like, I bombed my test. I'm 3 weeks from graduating. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need tutors. I can't afford to pay for the tutors on my own. And she said, I'll pay for the tutors. I'll pay. You don't need to work all those jobs. I'll give you the money. And I'm like, really? You're going to give me the money? She said, I wanted you to learn how to do everything on your own. I didn't want you to keep relying on me. And I was like, oh, okay.
I see it now.
That's a gold parenting example right there, because how easy it would have been for your mom to just say, oh, I got to do this for my daughter. I don't want to see her fail.
Yeah.
But your mother understood, no, I'm not going to let her completely drown, but I'm going to see what she's made of here. Yeah. So that's a cool example by your mother there. That's awesome.
But we don't see that enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough love.
We have a bubble around our
do
kids.
we? I don't know. Do we? Or does the mentality we're talking about just get the headlines? Do most parents personally, how do they react? How do they raise their children? Most parents personally. Because that's another victim mentality. We see the headlines and we think that's everything.
I think we're obviously attracted to like-minded people, right? We spend our time with like-minded people. And parenting, there's different. Like we have friends that parent very different than Tiffany and I do, but like-minded, there's something about it. And there's a reason why we choose to spend our limited amount of time with other people is because, okay, like we can learn something from you. We want to pour into you, but we also want you to pour into us. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. So I would say to your point, I think a lot of parents that I'm around, especially kind of having moved to a different community that's a little bit more blue collar, there's definitely less of that. They let their kids fail. They let them take ownership and accountability for their actions, probably more than I see parents not.
Yeah. What about you, Darren? What's your personal experience?
I see a lot more parents making excuses for their kids. Just flat out.
Today, where you grew up, both? Yeah.
Both. I just think in today's world, I think it's more so that you make excuses for your kids. Well, Timmy struck out 3 times. Well, he didn't have hitting lessons this week.
Let's be honest, you do hang out with a different tax bracket than we do.
No, I'm not saying just that. I'm just saying all the way across the board. Little Damien, cussed out the teacher at school. Well, the teacher said this. You're making these excuses for your kids. Maybe it's your kid's just a badass kid. Maybe it's just that you're a badass parent. Maybe it's that you're just so negative that little Damien, goes off on people because he sees the negativity within your own home. Maybe it's because you don't want to provide a better education because you feel like you're the victim to the way society has put you in this place, and you don't even think education is a big deal. There's so many things that's the problem I've always had with this mentality, this victim mentality, because the kids aren't. It's not the kids' fault. They're just learning what they see, right? They're coming up in a situation because they're looking at their parents, looking up to you. Cooper's looking up to you. He's watching you every single day. How do you react when Whit says something to you? He watches you every single day. When you fail at something, Tyler, you don't think your little boy's sitting there watching you like, okay, what's his reaction going to be? And I'm the same way, man. It's our job as parents to stop the victim mentality.
Yeah.
And stop allowing our kids to feed off of that. It's our job to make it to where, hey, look, I got to bring this positive light. I got to bring the positive light. And we just got to recognize it.
And you asked earlier, what are some tangible things that you can do, to kind of help? Is I think we've talked about it on multiple occasions. When you just recognize what it is, that's the first step.
Right.
If you recognize it, okay, am I being the victim or am I being a champion? Which one am I being? Okay, if I'm being a victim, okay. And for me recently, and very recently, taking the mindset of, okay, if something really crappy happened, it sucks, but what am I going to learn from it? How is it going to build calluses so that next time I take it better? If you look at it that way, and okay, how I'm going to be on the other side of this is stronger than I was when I came into it. And if you just recognize that deflates that victim ego that comes in, because it all comes down to ego, right? Because it really does, right? A victim mentality says that I deserve better, but I'm not getting it. No, you don't.
Right.
Suppress that ego, shut that ego up, and go do what you got to do to get what you need to get. Like you said, nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes anyone anything on this planet. You were born and you're accountable to yourself. And then the offspring that you create and your spouse.
Right.
But if you let the ego take control and say, oh, I deserve this, or I deserve that, or I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I should have this, or should have that, that's the ego playing up the victim card, and then all it does is paralyze you. But if you take it and you say, okay, I'm in this situation, where am I at? What am I going to learn from it? Then what that does is that flips it over and says, okay, look, I do need to learn. I do need to learn how to lose that deal and take that with grace, and then handle that prospect that didn't hire us, and I'm going to catch them on the next round because I handled this the right way. Or, hey, I got fired from a job. I'm going to say, hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to be better. And guess what? comes around, there may be an opportunity back at that company, maybe even at a higher position after you go learn something somewhere else. Right. So again, if you take it like, look, this is an opportunity to get stronger, to get smarter, and to be more resilient. Look at it that way, and that really starts to alleviate the victim mentality.
Yeah, what I tell myself, and this may not be for everybody, but me personally, what I tell myself is people from far worse have accomplished a lot more than whatever it is I'm after. Somebody who is in a much worse situation than I am, or was than I am, has accomplished exactly what I'm after. So why can't I? And that may not everybody may agree with that, but that's what keeps me going. Final thoughts, final words of encouragement. Think of a person that you want to speak to right now. Give that person some advice. Whatever example you want to think of, give that person some advice as we wrap this up.
100% to my boys. No, and my girls. Two different trains of thought. To my girls is that they're strong, they're powerful, and they were created to be leaders. Do not let, your gender, your geographic location, your athletic ability, your skill set, don't let any of that dictate your value, because you are no less, but you're also no more than anyone else. So go out and get it. And to my boys, look, you got to go fight for everything. You got to go be the protector. You got to go be a leader, and you got to be the example. And be the example, and not just being masculine and strong in this, but you also got to be the example of how to love, right? And how to serve other people. Yeah. So do not let anyone dictate your future. You are in control of it, and you have people on your team that will help you get there.
Love that. Darren, what about you? Who are you talking to?
My C5 kids, C5 Foundation, those kids, inner city kids, moms raising them, grandmas raising them, don't have a lot of hope, living in extreme poverty. I would say to them, get off your butts. Can't say that word. Get off your butts. When has
that ever stopped you?
Get off your butts.
Arses.
Put your face in that book. Read. Be disciplined. Listen. Just listen. And be hungry. I just want these kids to be hungry and know that, first of all, God's got a plan for them. They just got to want it and know that there are no handouts. There's nobody that's going to come and save you. Nothing falling out of the sky. There's no tree that you can shake that's going to give you money. You go and get it.
Love it. Yeah, I want to encourage the person, the guy or girl, who's in a situation where they didn't expect to be. Maybe a plan failed, or they didn't reach a goal, and they're not in a stage of life where they thought they were going to be, because that's me. And I'm talking to myself here. I just want to encourage that person to let that go. And it's hard, and it takes time, but let that disappointment go, because ultimately it starts today. Whatever it is you're after in the future, it starts today. Yeah. It doesn't serve you well to dwell on the past and to dwell on what could have been. It starts today. Yeah. Whatever you're after. Like you said, Darren, go get it.
So that sparks something that I think is so important, is always bet on yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Always bet on yourself. Yeah. And you know how you can trust yourself enough is you put in the work beforehand so that hey, I put in the work, I can do this. I'm going to bet on myself. Yeah. Yep. Always bet on yourself. Yeah.
Subscribe on YouTube, The Darren Woodson Show. We're on Instagram, The Darren Woodson Show. We're on Twitter. Darren's got his personal Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Tyler and I do too, but we're not as active.
I was told by a social media guy, he's a hammer, you're a ball peen. He's a sledgehammer. Yeah, just stay on that side of the table. And Darren and I are talking.
Yeah. Interact with us. Subscribe in all the podcasts.
Yeah.
The main thing we're after is interaction.
Yes.
Tell us what y'all want to hear.
Yeah.
What topics do you want us to discuss? What guests do you want us to bring on?
Yeah.
We're just winging it, man.
Yeah.
We need your help.
And honestly, like we're not the experts in every field. We're bringing on experts in a lot of these fields. But guess what? We will be honest with you, and we'll be transparent. And if there's anything that y'all want to hear from us or talk to us about, we're here.
I agree. Just be a part of the show.
Yep.
We want
Grateful.
you.
So grateful. See you guys Friday.